Get ready for the next set of upcoming prophetic trainings you don't want to miss. Bloomington, Illinois. We are coming your way August 9th, just 1 hour from Chicago. Don't wait. Go now to prophetessmiranda.com. Click schedule and register. If you feel led to support the vision, you can text GIVE to 8775 825403, scan the QR code on your screen, or visit prophetessmiranda.com and click donate. Get ready for the next set of upcoming prophetic trainings you don't want to miss. Bloomington, Illinois. We are coming your way August 9th, just 1 hour from Chicago. Don't wait. Go now to prophetessmiranda.com. Click schedule and register. If you feel led to support the vision, you can text GIVE to 8775 825403, scan the QR code on your screen, or visit prophetessmiranda.com and click donate.
Hello, God bless you. This is Prophetess Miranda. I want to welcome you today because today God has a special word of deliverance for you. Those of you that are seeking God for deliverance, and you should be. There should always be a need to go to the next place in God. I firmly believe, and let me just say this right out the gate, I do believe that deliverance should be a lifestyle. It should not be a special experience that you're looking for every day. It should not be. It should be a lifestyle, because once you begin to receive the deliverance of God, you constantly elevate. And then guess what? You become the deliverer. Isn't that amazing? Yes, because you begin to conquer in many different areas. Well, that's what today's broadcast is going to be about. And the title of today's broadcast is going to be, Lord, Send My Moses. You know, God sends amazing people, just like he sent and prepared Moses to be the deliverer for the Israelites. Well, guess what? God's got some great things that he's getting ready to do for you in your life, and it's going to require for you to be delivered. You know, some of you are saying, Prophetess, I've been waiting for a long time. There were times I thought I was delivered, and then stuff started coming back. Then I thought I was conquered this, and then I found out there was 5 more mountains. Well, join the club. Join the club. That's exactly what it is. Yes, you conquer, and you learn, you conquer. You do. And then you begin to teach, and then you get a testimony, and then you get delivered, and then you move to the next place and to the next place. But there will come a place that you will be at a place that God can use you. Don't mean you're perfect. Don't mean you're without complete sin. That means you're always working to perfection. We are working. We are being delivered. That's what the word says, and you're always working for a place to be, in a place where God can use you. And that's what today's message is going to be about. So if this is your first time watching the broadcast or being on one of my platforms, I want to welcome you. And let me tell you just a little bit about my life. I am God's prophetess. I have a word of the Lord to the nation. I'm one that don't believe in being a dollar prophet. I don't like people to draw on me because they think I just got their word. I believe in the word of God. I believe that the Bible is a book of prophecy. And I believe that anytime you pick up that book, that there are revelated words that'll give you answers, directions, and guidance because it's a book of things that are to come. Believe it or not, the Bible is actually a roadmap for us. It is the laws in which we should live by. And anytime I need an answer from God, I go find the book of laws and my direction. It's my roadmap. So today we're going to be talking about, Lord, send my Moses. I need a deliverer. Oh my God. So I don't know if you've watched any of my broadcasts before, but I love Moses. I do. He speaks to me. He really does. He teaches me how to walk as a woman of God, a one with an assignment, one being called, and it tells me what I need to do and not do. This is the reason why I love to study older great men of God, because I believe if they can live, literally, live a life of being walking with God, and I believe I can learn from their mistakes. I can learn from the how God used them. I can learn for how long it took them to get to a certain place, and I can also learn from the things that were uniquely placed in their life that no one can duplicate. I believe that God is aligning a new army that he's calling. And in that army, there are many different generals. There's some majors. Oh yeah. There's some servants. Oh yeah. They got everybody's lined up in that army. And guess what? I just want to be in my place. Today, I want to help you get in your place. I believe in this world that God is calling people to help to compel men to Jesus Christ and to come and let people know that there is a deliverer. They don't have to stay in bondage. Now, when I talk about Moses, he reminds me of someone that God orchestrate, and I'm going to talk a lot about him today. He orchestrated his life. I believe he was born with purpose. And we're going to talk about your purpose today. You might say, well, prophetess, I'm over 50, I'm over 60, I don't really know. Oh yeah, you got purpose. You have purpose and it's not too late. First thing the enemy will tell you, well, you've missed it. No, you haven't missed it. You have not missed it. There is a deliverer that God is going to send to you today. I wonder if by chance this message could be a key to your deliverance. Oh my God. Do you know sometime God has ways of bringing messages? He has ways of speaking. He has ways of waking you up and saying, this is what I'm doing. I love to be able to have special consecrated days, days that I talk to no one, days that I don't hear nobody's voice, and I hear only God's voice. Do you know those are the days that I get such a great move? And I don't know if I had to personally say, it was the days that I actually put God first and I put him before everything that I have to do. Sometimes, I remember one time a prophetess told me, she says, my God, she said, God's getting ready to give you a platter. I said, wait, what happened to the saucer, the cup, or the plate? She said, no, she said, it's a platter. And you know what? I often think about that. There's so many things to do. But I believe when I touch God and get revelation and insight is when I clear the schedule, clear it, oh my God, and refuse to talk to anybody and have one day that I shut down. And then I hear from the heart of God. Today, I want you to get ready because I'm going to teach you about your deliverer and what God wants to do through you. Lord, send my Moses. I need a deliverer. I've said that many times, Lord, I need help. I say, God, send me someone. Whenever God really wants to do a great work in a mighty vessel, he prepares a person with the word of the Lord, with the hand of the Lord, or the grace of God, or the need in that person, and then he puts that person in your pathway. This is the reason why you should yield yourself to God. You should submit to God. You should be where God wants you to be. Oh, yes, 100%. You should yield yourself all the time to whatever the will of God is, because you want to be where God wants you to be. See, when you're off key, when you're in the wrong place, when you didn't pray that morning, you didn't submit, you got mad because you didn't like who God said. Well, I'm not talking to him. I'm not talking to her. Okay, so what you did is you just messed up. And sometimes some of you all, you allow the enemy to pressure you and you move before time. But I tell you what, today I've got some prophetic keys for you. Let's discover the assignment of Moses. So my question to you first is, why do you need a deliverer? Well, apparently Israel is God's people, and they needed to come out of bondage. Whenever you have a deliverer, that means they're coming to pull you out of something, and they're coming to usher you to a certain place in God, just like the Israelites. So they needed a Moses to get to the land flowing with milk and honey that was promised to them by their forefathers. You have to realize, can you imagine 400 years of believing God for a prophecy that was told to you? How many of you could actually believe God for 2, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? You just give up. Because you do know whenever prophecy comes forth, there are dimensions in prophecy. And there's certain times, sometimes you have a prophecy for the now, you have a prophecy for what's to come, you have one that's in the future. See, that's the reason why prophets are so important, is because they have the ability to connect the past with the future, to present and to bring forth through prophecy what's coming in the future. And this is one of the major things that makes the prophetic gift so sharp, is because they have the navigation to go in their person's past, look at them today, see what's on them today, and give them the strategy for where they're going. See, if you can't do the three of that, you have a gifting. I don't know if you walk in a mantle. I don't know if your gift is cultivated with precision, and that's why you probably need a Moses, and then you need somebody to teach you. You need a Paul, you need an Apollos, you need some teachers, right? You need some people to cultivate you so the gift can be sharp, and then you can be a deliverer for someone else. So why do you need a deliverer? You need a deliverer because there's purpose on your life. I know you're probably saying, Prophetess, I just have messed up so much. Prophetess, you have no clue. I kind of have a clue. I know what it is to mess up, but I also know what it is to be delivered, and I know what it is to be a deliverer to someone else. I understand all three roles, but one thing I'm going to tell you, the Lord God, Jehovah, is a God of a second chance. Today, you have a second chance. All you have to do is turn your heart, get in his word, repent, confess, and say, here am I, Lord. Help me. See, sometimes some of y'all got to do, those dirty prayers, the prayers where you just get all dirty. You're crying on the floor. And you know what? Because you're broken. There's something about being broken. There's times I've prayed. There's times I prayed in my heart. But my God, there are times that I prayed out of an area or a place. I don't even know where this place is, but it was a place of brokenness. I don't know how I got there. I just know I supernaturally got there, and it touched the heart of God, and I saw the move of God. So why do you need to be delivered? It's because there's purpose on your life, and there's a call upon your life. I'm preparing to go to North Carolina, and maybe by the time this air, it's probably will be somewhere on one of our platforms. I'm going to get ready to talk about the call and answering the call. But in answering the call is also being delivered in order to produce the call. If you think about it, if we're going to talk so much about Moses' life, but God prepared him just like he's preparing you. You just not on his page yet. You on your own page. Yeah. You're on your own time clock. You are. Because you got your own thing going on. So therefore, you're not on his time clock. So that means you're frustrated. You're angry. You're bitter. You're frustrated. And you don't understand because you're not on his page. When you get on God's page, there is a rest. Oh, Monday. Oh. There is a rest that comes upon you because you're in step with him. There's a peace that hits your life because you're in step with him. See, because a true prophetic person, they don't want nothing before time, because they know in the prophetic, time is the heartbeat. And if you miss timing, you're going to miss, you could have the right word, but off in the wrong timing. And then you still look jacked up and crazy because you're off timing. You want to be in timing. So many people get so hurt because they speak out of turn. They speak before God says things, or they share things. They share things that should be shared within the heart that God shared them. They begin to share things, and then they share it before time, and they do damage. And then somebody gonna have to come back and do damage control. Next is, there's a reason that you were born. I know you probably say, Prophetess, me and my mom, well, we're not the best. We've never been the best. She's never really owned me. She don't even like me. She don't even claim me. It don't matter. It does not matter. She did her service. She brought you here. She had a mandate to bring you here. But what's on the inside of you is for kingdom. Oh my God, I'm ministering to someone today. I'm ministering to somebody's heart today. Listen, so you were born for a reason, and there's purpose on your life, and there's a call on your life, and there's a need in you for the kingdom. See, there's kingdom in you. That's why you're different. That's why you don't understand. That's why things are in turmoil. You don't understand why they're in turmoil. They keep being up and down. You're trying to figure that thing out. Yeah, you're trying to figure, there's a need in the kingdom for you, because what you're carrying is got to come forth. That's the reason why your deliverer is so important, because that kingdom inside of you is not going to come forth until that deliverer comes and help you get that thing birthed. And also, there are people that are waiting on your healing. So you might say, I know so many of us get so caught up in our own selves and, what we need, and Lord help me and pull me out. But let me cut you short on that. Baby, you being delivered for a reason. That pain was for a reason. That pain is got purpose on it. And there's a reason why you went through that. God's not sleeping. The man don't sleep. He's not asleep, and and I'm going to be honest with you. There's some things went on in my life, and some hurt and some pain and some injustice and things of that nature. And I'm just trying to figure out what. There was a day I was like, what is happening? God, where are you? I can't find you. I had to plunder through things. Well, let me say this to you. There are people waiting on your healing. I had no clue that people were waiting on my word. I had no clue that I even had a word that would touch the heart of people and bring them out. There are times I get emails and they make me weep. Sometimes, a deliverer can get disheartened, and they can. And sometimes the Lord will say, look at your emails. And sometimes I'll hear someone from way across the world, in some city that I can't even pronounce, way across the world, and they're telling me about the word in my mouth, which I know it has nothing to do with Miranda. It has to do with God. It has to do with him. But you need a deliverer. And you need to pray for God to send you Moses. And let me say this. When he send you Moses, humble yourself. Don't take it for granted. Oh, whatever you do, don't take it for granted. Because sometimes some of this stuff don't come back again. Moses has been on my heart for such a long time, because so many people think they can do this thing all by themselves. And there are things that God does individually just with you. But there are times he used people in your dream. He used people in your life. He used people to open doors. God don't like lone rangers. He used you as a connector. Just like your deliverer's going to come and connect you, and then you're going to connect to someone else, and then you're going to be somebody else's deliverer, and then that person's going to be, it's like a chain reaction. But let's talk about a few people in the Bible that had purpose in their life, and there was a reason that they were born and they were put in this world. And I hope you're going to groom from it. Moses was called to lead the children of Israel out of Egypt. That he was born to do that. That's Exodus 3:10. Born to do that. Do you understand? Like, you might say, well, he did have a wife, he did have kids. Doesn't matter. The man was born for this. Let me tell you what that means. That means he was handcrafted for this particular thing. You know, there's some things that you are handcrafted for if you just stop fighting the process. You know, you want to do your own thing. You still got them, you got them spirits in you that's making you worldly and carnal. You got your own thing going on. You're fighting your own emotions. But I need you to figure out, you and God need to reason together and say, God, what did you create me to do? And then rest in that. Oh my God. I know somebody says, what prophetess? Wait, I want to do this. I want to do. I didn't say you couldn't do other things, but you need to know what you were created to do. Because whatever you're created to do, you're going to find going to have a glory on it. And you're not going to have to push for it. It just walks in your hand. Oh my God, my God. Let's talk about Jeremiah. Jeremiah was ordained as a prophet to deliver a message to nations. And this man wept, like he wept, you know, but the Lord gave him a word of the Lord. He said, before I formed thee in thy belly, I knew thee. And before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee and ordained thee as a prophet to the nation. So he was born to do this. I'm telling you, you were born for something. That's Jeremiah 1:5. Next, Apostle Paul, called to preach the gospel specifically, listen to this key, specifically to the Gentiles. Acts 9:5. There are going to be some people that God has called you to. And, you know, maybe all of you would love to have everybody that's all saved and cleaned up, just ready to do kingdom business and do things. No, some of you all gonna be sent to the poor. Some of you all going to be sent as missionaries. Some of you all going to have to go to Africa. Some of you all are going to have to go behind the prison walls. Some of you are going to have to be missionaries. Some of you are going to have to deal with the poor. Sometimes God's going to send the abused and the broken. See, Paul had specific assignment to the Gentiles. Everybody's got a purpose. Next, what about Noah? Noah was one that God purposed with a task. There's some of you that are looking at me today. You need a deliverer because there's a task that God's going to give you. And it's not that God doesn't give everybody tasks, you know. You work in the church, God gives you tasks. You work for a pastor, you do a ministry, you have a nonprofit. That's church work. That's busy work. But that's not like Noah. Noah had a task to build an ark and save his household. You know, God trusted him with this specific assignment. Although he was a weak vessel, had some things in him, but he was one that God called worthy for this actual task. Some of you are going to get a certain task. They're going to be an assignment, and it's something going to have power and glory, and nobody can stop you from doing it. It don't matter if they come against you. It don't matter if they try. They could try to work witchcraft. They could try to send darts. They could try to do anything they want to do. You are assigned to do that. And there will be a banner and a power and angels that will fight for you. It's Hebrews 11:7. There's also somebody called, this is a strange one that was very unique, and I thought it was something how God can give people talents. It's called Bezalel. It's Bezalel. And I thought, wow, he was literally, listen to this, he was called, he was specifically called and filled with the Spirit to craft the tabernacle furniture. Now, come on. Listen to me. He was called. He was called and specifically called and filled with the Holy Spirit, put the Spirit on him to cause him to craft these actual tabernacle furniture. What does that mean? That means God can handcraft you. Do you know there's some things that I know how to do that I can't even explain? There are anointings that's dropped on my life that can't tell you how, why. I don't even understand why they're on there. It behooves me. There are some things that God has crafted you, but the scripture says, and this is what it says, and I have filled him with the Spirit of God in wisdom and in understanding and in knowledge and in the manner of workmanship. Meaning he put a workmanship anointing upon him. This is going to be Exodus 31, verses 2 and 3. You should study that. So let's move on in the message. And it says, when God sends a deliverer, what happens? So when God get ready to orchestrate to send somebody to you, so you might think, well, what is that for? Why would he do that? Seasons are getting ready to change. There's getting ready to be a shift. So there's a deliverer got to come in your life because see, there's a time clock. God got a time clock. God's got a plan. He's got a roster and he's saying, okay, I need him to be here at this time because I got him that needs that delivered and I need him to do that. So I'm going to orchestrate him. My goodness. Listen. So there's a season that's getting ready to change, is getting ready to shift. And that, Ecclesiastes 3 verses 1 through 8, you should read that. If you really want to understand timing, you should study that. It's Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 8. And the first one says, to everything there's a season. Everything. There's a season you should be moving. There's a season you should be studying. There's a season you should be preparing. There's a season you should be shifting. There's a season you should wait. There's a season you should just stop trying to make things happen. Some of you all, you're battling because you're trying to make things happen. That's what you're trying to do. And a time for every purpose under the sun. So there's a season and there's a time. There's a season, meaning there's an era in life in which things are happening. And then within that season is specific timing for things to go on. See, some of you all, you just get anxious. And I understand that. I've been there as well. I've learned many hard lessons from getting anxious, frustrated, and walking in flesh. Oh, yeah, for sure. Many, many lessons. So many lessons to the point that I go, not going to happen. Also, whenever you find that God sends a deliverer, it's time to prepare for the new season. There's a season of preparation. Also, God has a need for you, and it's time for change. So whenever God starts sending a deliverer, you can know some of these things are going to start happening. It's time to stop your foolishness and to get out of bondage. There are times I've seen God allow people to waddle in things. And then I'll see their time, they wake up one day and their life is not the same. Things change. Oh, yeah. Do you know God could cause a change in one person's life that shifts everybody's life? I've seen the hand of God bring change that shifts the whole family. My. Also, he selects your deliverer. Do you understand that? God selects your deliverer. I don't think you have a choice because you have to understand, how do I get you to understand that there's a master plan? I know some of you are such controllers. You got your own thing going on, and when you're not in spiritual maturity, you stay on your own plan. The greatest thing that I teach many of my mentees is to die. Die to self, die to your will, die to your way. And this is a daily process. You tell yourself, I surrender to the will of God. And I pray every day that if anything that I've gotten my hands in it, shut it down and please put me back on the right road. One of the things that I hate about the children of Israel, they walked around and around and around for 40 years. My God, I don't know. I don't want none of y'all walking around 40 years, doing the wrong thing, marrying the wrong people, being with this and just not doing the kingdom work. Your whole books in heaven, you're not even doing anything of it. You haven't even started it and you're close to 70 years old. You better wake up. It's time to get moving. He selects your deliverance with something you need. See, he selects the deliverer. And because that deliverer has something that you need and that you couldn't provide for yourself. So I need you to understand, you can't get flippant with the deliverer. You can't demand from them. That's self, that's your will, that's your way. Bad, totally bad. So you have to understand, God selects your deliverer because they have something in them that you need, that you couldn't provide for yourself. But God chose that person to be able to help you to get to that place. I look at it this way. If God literally chooses those people, that tells me something, okay? Next, they're on assignment and they owe you nothing. Look, they on assignments. You could buck. Some people could have stayed in Egypt, decide not to even come. But they did. Some of them didn't. Some of them brought Egypt with them. Some of Egypt mixed with that. Oh, yeah, for sure. And some of times they actually got their atmosphere merged on them and the mindsets, they took it on. And you might say, well, how do you know that? Oh, well, Moses goes up to the mountain to be able to get the laws that God had for him. He comes back, and the Lord said, the people. He said the people are into something. The Lord begins to warn him and tell him. And Joshua says, it sounds like war. He says, no, it's not. Oh my God. They're on assignment. They owe you nothing. They're on assignment for your purpose. They're coming with a demolition team to tear down the core and the root and rebuild again. They're going to rebuild again. So this deliverer is coming with an assignment, the endorsement of God, the plan of God, revelation, prophetic, and they're coming with a word and a sword because they're going to cut out the root and they're going to put you back on path. Okay? You are inducted into the school of spirit. Now, I can remember there were seasons. I remember one season I stayed. God has given me like 3 or 4 churches, right? And I remember I stayed at one church for 2 months, one service for 3 months, one service for like 5 years, and then one service for like place like 10, 15 years. And I'm gonna tell you this: every one of them was a school of the spirit. I didn't know that at the time, but when I look back now and I'm like, okay, I learned this. I learned this. Oh, I learned don't do that. Oh, I learned don't do this. I learned about spirits. I learned, oh yeah, it was the school of the spirit. And if you think about it, it was all a plan. Like when I was going through it, I didn't think that. Nah, I didn't think that. But my God, when I look back at it now and go, it's something when God gives you that panoramic view. You're able to say, oh, I learned this here. Oh, I had to go here to get this. Oh my, you know what? And it made me more humble. I'm going to be honest with you. It made me grateful for everybody. Even when I thought, oh my God, they didn't do what they needed to do for me and I was short and they did this to me. You know what? I look at it and I go, my God, look at the plan. Look at the school of the spirit and the learning. Oh my God, yes. So you have to understand, you've been inducted in the school of the spirit and you are being graded. So you need to understand that. And you will either fail or you're just going to have to retake the class, or either you're going to just totally be expelled from the school period. Now, you don't want that because that means you give up on the plan of God for your life. And that usually means God takes you out early, or that means you just sit on the front bench and just go ahead on and waste away there and never fulfill the plan of God. You have a spiritual baby that's on the inside of you, and your deliverer knows it. Because when God sends you to someone, they see what's in you. They see it. But, you so on a time clock, you so anxious, you letting demons talk to you, you let demons move you before time. My God, been there, done that. Sure enough, been that. Allowed the whispering spirits, allowed the jealous people to put seeds about things. Oh yeah, boy, I tell you what, a school of the spirit will really teach you some spiritual things. It really will. But when you got a spiritual baby in there, and that deliverer knows that, they knows that because God has selected and developed this thing on the inside of you. You're either going to develop the baby, or you're going to abort the baby, or you're going to give the baby to somebody else. Now, which one you going to do? Tell me what you're going to do. Because God going to get the baby delivered. Because if the baby got to be in New York at a certain time developing this and doing great things and things of that nature. So guess what? If that's what's going to be happening, whether you like it or not, somebody going to develop that baby. It's either going to be you or not. So either you're going to develop the baby and stay humble, or you're going to abort the baby, or you're going to give someone else the baby. Because guess what? He going to do it no matter what. No matter what. He just may change the plan, or even the man. The plan may be, it don't mean that he going to change the baby, because the baby is the baby. Whatever he needs to do, he's going to be doing it, right? No matter what. Irregardless, he's going to do it. But he may change the plan of how he's going to get it done, and the man or the person that's going to do it, only because you decide to do it your way. Let me say this. Deliverers are assigned by God for a specific work, and they're very serious about it. I can remember there were times the Lord would give people in my life, and he would tell me, you stand for them. And I would stand through the thick, the thin. I would have people telling me, you shouldn't help him. You shouldn't help her. Or, you don't know the stuff they doing. They would tell me all type of things. But I knew when God gave me an assignment, I don't let go until God released me. Because you have to understand, a deliverer is under the order of God as well. Now, deliverers are assigned by God for a specific work. Don't frustrate your deliverer with your unbelief and complaining. Moses is a great example with that. He was a great example. He allowed those people to frustrate him, and he paid a heavy price for it. So you have to make sure that you don't frustrate your deliverer, and that your unbelief, if you think about it, you should study this book. In the time that they have these miraculous miracles, every time one miracle is over, they start complaining about something else. They go back to normal, and then they go back complaining again. And I thought to myself, when are these people ever gonna get it? They did it like 4 or 5 times. God just cared. He says, okay, I'm gonna show you this. Well, what are we gonna do? Did you bring us here to kill us? Did you bring us here to drown us? Okay, he splits the Red Sea, right? Okay, then he says, okay, well, did you do this? He says, now, I said, manna comes, right? And he comes and he says, then quails come. And then, he just kept doing it. He kept doing it. He kept giving them water, kept doing it. And I'm thinking to myself, man, these people are the most unspiritual. You know what? They were seeing miracles, but they weren't spiritual. They didn't know the God of the miracles. Israel just knew that they had been delivered out of Egypt and out of bondage, and they just wanted to go to the new land. But these people were not spiritual. They were not spiritual. They were in slavery and bondage. And guess what? They had the slavery mentality. If you study it, they wanted to cry out to go back to Egypt. They wanted to go back to bondage. They actually said, we were better off. Come on, think about you. Haven't you said that? Come on now. Even in your foolish time, haven't you said that? Haven't you said, well, at least when I was in the world, I had a better car. Yeah, you had a better car. You was addicted to drugs. You lost your family. You lost your children. You don't even know your children. You would have drugged up half the time. But yes, you had a car in repossession, but you did have a car. Oh my God. See, the enemy can delude you. I tell you what. Now, why God qualifies a man like Moses? Today we're going to talk a lot about him, and we're going to relate it to our lives today. Moses was purposed and he was prepared. He was purposed by God, and he was prepared by God. And he put many different people and deliverers in his life to prepare for what he really was going to do and be a deliverer to Israel. He did. He used Pharaoh's daughter right under Pharaoh's nose. He can you believe that? Like, oh my God. What did he do? He used somebody right in the palace. Can you believe that? Sometimes when I think about that, I'm like, what? Oh, right under his nose. Oh my God. God chose Moses because he was willing to pay the price of divine isolation and consecration. Now, those are going to be 2 major things during the time when you're seeking a deliverance to get at a place. Now, one of the things I want to warn you is dangerous to launch a vision without deliverance. I know sometimes when you come out, you feel like you're out of bondage, but you have to realize, look at Israel. They were out of Egypt, came through a mighty miracle. They go in the wilderness and go right back and come up with a cow, a brass cow, and they needed something to worship. Do you think they knew the God Jehovah? No, they needed a physical something that they could touch. Oh, don't that sound like us in our days when we were worldly and carnal and didn't really know God? God chose Moses because he was willing to pay the price. Now, I'm just going to say, are you willing to pay the price? Talk to me today. If you think you're going to be used mightily with no price, man, you got another God. You got another gospel that you really, you must be believing another gospel. I don't know what it is, but it's not the one here because you're going to have to pay a price. Divine isolation and consecration. If you think about it, when God called Moses, first thing he did, he fled to Midian. God used Midian to reshape him. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. And then he used that consecration to prepare him for that burning bush experience. God had a burning bush experience for you. There's an encounter for you. So somebody watching me today, and God's going to shift you. Right now, you're in a terrible place. You're in a terrible place physically, mentally, and spiritually. But the Lord say he's not changed his plan. And there is a deliverer coming to you. And there's going to be a day you're going to wake up and that bondage going to fall off of you. And you will glorify the Lord thy God. Next, God had to break and reshape him. Moses, the version of Moses that came out of Egypt, that wouldn't have worked. Like, he was a princess. He was used to comfort. He had the Pharaoh Egyptian mentality. That wouldn't have fit. He wasn't no deliverer then. So then God had to go on and take him and bring him back to Midian. And Midian was the selected place. And you have to understand, sometimes God will pull you out. Now, you have to understand Midian, if you study about the Midianites, you really need to study the history of them. They weren't the most Christian people. However, God used it and used his father-in-law mightily. It was a purpose place. God has a way he can use whatever he wants to, if you think about it. So he needed a seasons of separation. And every great man needs to go through a period of divine isolation. Every great man. Moses had to leave his comfort zone behind. Like, he had to leave fast. One day he woke up and life changed. Have you ever had that? That you woke up and all of a sudden what was yesterday wasn't there? You ever woke up and all of a sudden you don't know where your children are. You don't know where your wife is. You don't know where your husband is. Come on, think about it. There's a time you woke up and that life had changed. Well, there was a day that he had to leave really, really fast. And guess what? He had to go straight to a whole different life. He was on the run. My God. God's refining process. God tests and refines chosen people. All of them have them. I don't know no great man or woman of God that doesn't have a refining process. If you didn't get that refining process, I promise you, you're not going to stay in that position too long, because you're going to have to go back and do that refining, because if not, you're going to mess it up. Oh, I promise you, you will. God tests and refines his chosen vessels. Moses spent 40 days tarrying before God, allowing the Lord to break him and align him with his divine pattern and agenda. Now, you have to understand, there was a willingness for sacrifice. God chose individuals to do a great work, but he had to take them out of comfort. There's something about whenever God's getting ready to do a work in you, He's going to bring you to a place of fasting, some isolation, consecration, some type of seeking. He puts you in strange places, strange people, and he does a work. He has to do that. Sometimes God actually pulls you out of comfort, and then he pulls you out of your real pain and dedication. And he brings you to dedication. There are times I've had some isolation that brought me to a deeper place in God. And it made me more dedicated to him. It made me see. Oh my God. God instructions to Moses. Now, some of you all, I know you need a deliverer, but the deliverer is going to come with instructions. And this is where most people fail, because God gives them instructions. He gives them a deliverer. But that old Egypt in you make you do your own thing. And I've been studying that over the last 3 months. And what I've come to the point is, sometimes the Egypt is so deep in them. There's a ruling spirit that causes that mind to literally how should I say, fight against the change of God. So what they do is they change a little bit. They take a little bit of the change, which is the new, and they mix it with the old Egypt that's ruling. Let me give you an assignment. You need to see who dominated your life the most. Whoever dominated your life the most is the ruling spirit. Then you discern what spirit they had, and you may find that that spirit is what's ruling in you. Oh, listen to me. I'm trying to get you to the promised land. I'm trying to get you to a place to cross over that wilderness. That's where I'm trying to get you. See, I learned this through pain. Oh, yeah. Like you couldn't have never told me that I had somebody else's spirit ruling in me. But I did. It's whoever was dominant. See, I didn't know that when they were teaching me in Egypt, they were putting their spirits in me. And then that's why I was bucking and fighting God so much. But I didn't even know I was. I didn't even know why. But I began to watch my fruit and I began to watch my progress. And I kept saying, something's holding me back. I don't know what this is. Okay. So God gave instructions to Moses. This is what he told him. Return to Egypt. Exodus 4:18-20. He says, he commanded Moses to leave Midian and to go back to Egypt, right? He gathered the elders. There were many instructions. And if you think about it, there was only one of them. He really didn't quite do what he needed to do, but he followed all of the instructions of God. He gathered the elders, instructed Moses to assemble the elders of Israel and to assure them that God had seen their affliction and would deliver them. Exodus 3:16-17. He approached Pharaoh. That was an assignment. Exodus 3:18. He performed miracles. He as directed by God. Now you really got to understand, he did some mighty things during that time. You know, God showed him miracles. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, whenever God is building my faith, he begins to do a slew of miracles. And, and that's why I could so relate to Moses, and we're going to talk a little bit how God prepared him for the supernatural. He did. He prepared him for the supernatural. And I'm going to teach you that. Like God literally hand taught Moses how to walk in the supernatural. Just like I believe that there's a deliverer, a teacher, and someone that's going to help teach you. So he performed miracles, he directed Moses to use signs. He did, like the rod turning into the serpent and his hand becoming leprous. Oh yes, Exodus 4:1-9. Also asked for silver and gold. Instructed every Israelite woman to ask the Egyptian neighbors for articles of silver, gold, and clothing, that they would not leave the land empty-handed. That's Exodus 3:21-22. He instituted Passover. Now you have to understand, this is really important. He commanded the Israelites to sacrifice a lamb, apply it blood to the doorposts of the homes. Now this is where God poured the Israelites on my people. That's what he said. He says, I'm going to allow this to go. He said, I'm going to kill these firstborn. He said, but because you obeyed me and because you put the blood on the post, he said, I'm not going to touch your children. He says, I'm not going to do it. Exodus 12:1-11. And this is what he told them. Apply the blood to the doorposts of their home and eat the meal. And he told them, he said, prepare a meal in haste. He's signifying the night the Lord will pass over them. Oh my God. Do you not know how special the Passover is? This is where God showed them, you are mine. You are mine, my God. Observe unleavened bread. He did. That's Exodus 12:15-18. He did. And then he consecrated the firstborn, commanded all the firstborn males among the children of Israel, both man and beast, to be set apart and sacrificed to the Lord. Exodus 13:1-2. To go forth, directed Moses to lift up his rod and stretch his hand over the Red Sea. Do you know that God is going to instruct you to do some very interesting things that you're not going to understand? You won't understand. You won't know why he did it. There were a lot of things in life that I don't understand. But my God, they prepared me for today. They are my history. They are my confidence. They are why I believe what I believe. They are why when I don't understand things, I pull back in my archives and say, oh, wait a minute, but he did this miracle and he did this one. And you know what it does? It makes me go, I will stand. I don't understand. They'll tell me, well, prophetess, what you think? I don't think nothing. I'm going to stand. I'm going to stand on the same word. I'm going to believe God. I'm not moving. I'm not moving till he moves. When he moves, I'm going to move. That's what I'm going to do. Oh my God. Exodus 14, 15, and 16. Now, let's talk about Moses' life. Let's go to a little bit detail so I can help you apply it to your life. This is really going to help you. He was assigned as a deliverer. He was assigned. You have to understand. He left running. Let's get some clarity. He didn't do it the real right way, but he had to go back after that. And isn't it amazing? After 40 years, he had to go back. What does that tell you? My God, sometimes you got to go back and clear some stuff up. Sometimes you don't even understand, but he went back with the power of God. He spent 40 years in Midian as a shepherd, being reshaped and cultivated. Some of y'all, you're in your shaping years. I know some of y'all just like, prophetess, look, I'm going to be 90 years old before I do. No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. You just got to wait on God, but you need the reshaping. He took 40 years as a shepherd. Don't you think that's interesting? He comes from the palace as a prince, but he had to become a shepherd. In the word of God, it's something so amazing what he does with shepherds. You should make that a study for you. Shepherds have a way of touching God and humility, and he had to prepare him, but he chose to prepare him as a shepherd. Then he called by God to rescue Israelites from slavery. Now think about it. He kills the Egyptians. He flees out of there, go to Midian, off the scene for 40 years, live a whole different life. And then all of a sudden, he gets a special encounter. Encounters shift your life. Some of you all today are going to have an encounter. There's going to be a shift that's going to happen. It is. The Israelites from slavery, leading them through the desert for another 40 years. My goodness. So it's like this man really had a whole job going on him. Some of you all, first 20 years, you ready to flip out and quit. You just mad because God ain't moving fast enough. I'm getting older, prophet. What? The time is in God's hand. Then you have to understand. So let's walk through it. Moses gets the burning bush. Moses, he gets empowered by this voice out of a bush that gives him instruction. God trains Moses on the supernatural healing. He does. See, Moses was having to go back to his rivalry. He was having to go back. And you have to realize now they got a new Pharaoh there. He's got to go back where he was and got to tell this man that there's another God here. You have to understand. It wasn't the same Pharaoh there. This is 40 years later. Oh my goodness. And this Pharaoh was something else here. This Pharaoh didn't even remember what Joseph did to keep Egypt. He don't remember any of that. He just wanted everything to be all about him. All about him. And then he became really intimidated. You have to, intimidation and jealousy can really put people in a serious spiritual bondage. But, God trains Moses. And in that training, now when I think about that, so the Lord tells him, he tells him, put your hand in. He puts his hand in and he pulls it out. And it's got leprosy. He said, put it back. And he says, he's showing him, I'm going to show you I'm a supernatural God. And I'm going to show you what I've empowered you with. Whoa, can you believe that? He does. He does. Can you believe that he would do? He speaks to him through a bush. He sees the bush burning, but it won't stop. Then the bush starts talking. Oh my goodness, Lord, have mercy. Moses established miracles, miracle faith. That's what God was doing. He was preparing him supernaturally. He tells him to take his rod and grab the rod, and the rod turns into a serpent, and he grab it again, and then it turns back to a rod. He says, I'm going to show you. Whenever God is preparing you for a great work, there's going to be a season that God's going to bring you into a place of training for the supernatural. I want you to listen to me. You know, I personally believe that the supernatural, you understand, works with deliverance. See, he had to be a deliverance. He had to get him out of bondage. He had to come out of Egypt. Come on, let's talk about the life. He came out of Egypt. He became a shepherd. Then he got cultivated. Then he went a mountaintop experience. Then he had an encounter. Then he got an assignment. Then he goes back and pull people out of bondage. Do you hear the track record? Take the track record. That's your track record. Then God sends Moses back to the place that he once ran from. Oh Lord. Now see, somebody gonna be like, Prophetess, I'm not going back to those people. Okay, Jonah, because you know, I'm not going back to those people. Oh, you're above them now. You got to go wherever God tells you to go. Because remember this, the deliverer's coming with an assignment, and inside the assignment is your purpose. And your purpose has to do with people that God need healed. God hand-trained Moses. Now let me go back to that, because there's some keys in that for his assignment. The burning bush was miraculous, right? And then it was also a commission in the burning bush. So in the encounter is the commissioning and an assignment in there. Oh my God. And then what he does, he says, I'm going to tell you, you go tell Pharaoh to let my people go. And then Moses gets scared. Why he going to listen to me? Who am I going to tell him? Tell him I am. Oh my God. You know, to assure Moses and to prove his divine authority. So you have to understand, God do miracles to show his divine authority. You know, God will endorse you. He will endorse you. See, when seasons are getting ready to happen, he starts endorsing you. God commands him to perform 3 miraculous signs, turning the rod into the serpent, turning his hand into leprosy, and then instantly healing it. Oh my God. See, you got to understand. So he got this. He got the bush, he got the serpent, and then he got the healing of the hand. And then he says, now, I'm going to show you, now get ready to go back. He said, go back. And you know what? If you think about it, and let me tell those of you that flow in miracles and believe in God to do the greater works, you got to hold on to the things that God showed you. There are going to be times that you're going to have to step out on faith, and all you're going to have is what God has done for you. Some of you right now believing for financial miracles. Just remember the last miracle he gave you, and the one before that, and the one before that. You didn't deserve any one of them. They were miraculous. You still can't explain it. Draw from it. You know, draw from it, literally. So you have to understand the serpent, okay, the leopard hand, God validated him with confidence. See, that's where, when I talk about those 3 miracles, I don't know, it was almost like he wanted him to be confident. There are times that God wants you to be confident. So he does the miraculous to show you it's beyond you. Because the demon's going to start telling you, yeah, but you ain't good enough. Remember this and remember this. Miracles are outside of you. They don't have anything to do with you. You're just a chosen vessel. My. Lord, have mercy. Now you have to understand now. So he goes from 40 years in Midian, and and he's running. Some of you are running from your pain, because you have to realize Moses fled, and he fled with pain. Oh my God. Are you running from your past? Are you running from your pain? I look at it this way. Even with Moses' life, I think it was miraculous that his mother begins to nurse him. I believe it was miraculous of how literally that princess comes out and she gets that baby, and she knows it's one of the Hebrew children. yet she keeps him. She gets a divine connection to him. Do you know that God will give people a divine connection for you? You know, Moses escapes Midian to avoid Pharaoh's death. Oh my God. As a penalty for killing the Egyptian. Now you have to understand. See, God was protecting things. There was a divine setup. Then he goes, he's running, and then he runs into these sisters, and right? And guess what? And it's the woman that he's gonna marry. It's her sisters. And guess what? He runs into Jethro's daughters, and that was a divine setup. Then God prepares him. He does. He gives him one of the daughter. He gets Zipporah. All a divine setup. Then there's a birth of a son. See, the Lord is moving. Then there's an encounter. You have to understand. Then all of a sudden he says, okay, now you got to go back on your assignment. Go bring the plagues. Some of you are going to have very interesting lives. And let me say this to you, because there's some prophets that are looking at me today. And you just don't understand why your life is the way you are. Baby, that's just a mark of a prophet. You don't understand. Everybody else have it easy. They get a church, they get to preach, everybody just give them offerings. They just love it easy peasy. Well, I'm just sorry. That's that's just not the way. That's not your mantra. Okay, that's just not the way it's gonna happen for you. Yours are different. You're a shaker. You're a mouth. I remember there was a woman, two women of God, and I was just like, Lord, these people raising habit on this social media. And you know what the Lord told me? He said, I put the word of the Lord in their mouth. He said, they are mouthpiece for me. He said, they're going to stand in areas that other people wouldn't stand. And I was like, whoa. And both of them were uniquely standing in areas that were controversial that other people would not stand. So what my question is to you, are you willing to stand? What is the word of the Lord? What is the area God wants you to stand in? Lord, have mercy, 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 mercy. So you have to understand, Moses goes back, and there's all these plagues that are going on, right? This man is like tormented. Can you imagine God having you to go back to the place where you had ran from and demanding? Okay, so he returns to Egypt, and he's doing what God says. There's the first plague with the water to blood. Then there's the second through the ninth plague. There's plagues of frogs, there's ants, there's flies, there's livestock diseases. And you know what? There were some of those plagues that God said not gonna touch Israel. He didn't let that firstborn. He didn't let some of their cows and things of that nature. And they were God was making himself known among the heathens. There are times God gonna call you specifically out to stand. And then you know what he gonna do? He gonna put you in such a place that your heart is so connected with him and he can trust you. He gonna make you stand right in controversial. And he says, I'm gonna show you this my woman or this my man. And I'm going to be with him. Well, that's what he did with Moses. Can you imagine that? My God, they probably had to draw on him every day, every piece, like, Lord, what are you doing? Lord, what are you doing? Right? Then the Passover, where God didn't allow the firstborn to happen. Can you imagine? And then the Egyptians' firstborn, including Pharaoh's firstborn. My God, you have to understand. And you have to understand the enemy will back down for a moment. Yeah, for a moment. Yeah, Pharaoh humbled himself for a moment and even asked for a blessing. For a moment, just a moment. And then guess what? The Lord hardened his heart again. That man got that demon rage up on him. And you might say, well, prophetess, the Lord could have just killed him during that time. No, he wanted the miracle. He wanted the miracle to happen. He wanted to drown him. He wanted his glory to be seen. He wanted to show him the God of I am. There's times that God gonna show people you are for him. Oh my God. What about your wilderness journey and your Mount Sinai experience? Do you have one? Every one of us. Have you ever been through a journey? Oh, before a promised land, there's always a journey. Always. And right before you get ready to go into the promised land, there's going to be a Mount Sinai experience where God is going to put something and send you back with something powerful, just like he did Moses. Miracle, intimacy in Egypt. Let's talk about that. God's always going to bring forth miracles for his glory. Intimacy is what keep you different from the Egypt people. See, the Egypt people didn't have intimacy. They didn't know the God of the miracles. The Egypt people just wanted stuff, people, and something to worship. You know, crossing the Red Sea. You have to understand, God said, I'm going to show you that I am God. Exodus 14:21 and 30. So God uses Moses in a miraculous way. Then he says, he turns the bitter water of March. He did. Exodus 15:23 and through 25. Moses threw a specific tree into the bitter water of March, turning the water to be sweet. It's like in the wilderness, God will show you, I'm God. He says, I want you to know that I'm God. I'm God. I am God. Provisions, manna, and quail. My God. Exodus 16, verses 13 and 15. You know, some of you all should really take time and study the miracles in the wilderness. That's what I call it. Sometime when I need to get my faith together and go to another dimension, I study the miracles in the wilderness. See, during that wilderness, God showed his hand. Some of you are in a wilderness and you need God to show his hand. Do you know the wilderness is the time that you'll remember the rest of your life? Oh my God, provisions were provided. Water from a rock, Exodus 6:17, verses 5 through 6. Yes, the battle against the Amalekites. You have to understand now, Joshua would led the army. And as long as Moses held his hand up with the rod, the Israelites prevailed. Exodus 17, verses 10 through 13. Also, judges appointed. The Israelites were so massive and they just continued to grow. When God's hand is upon a people, and that's what originally made Pharaoh so intimidated by him. But you know what? The Israelites didn't know who they were. They needed a leader. They needed a deliverer because they didn't even know how great they were. The massiveness they didn't even know that if they got together, what they could have overpowered it, but they didn't know who they were. Because when you're in Egypt, you're in bondage, you're paralyzed, your mind is paralyzed. You don't know who you are. So therefore, they just succumbed to the slavery. But he appointed some judges, and based on the wisdom of his father-in-law, Jethro, Moses appointed many different judges, and then there were certain things that Moses did himself because he began to understand that as you grow and become massive, you're going to have to trust other people. Now that's a problem because see, some of y'all still got some Egypt in bondage and you don't trust nobody. So therefore you wear yourself out so to the point that you can't get where you need to go. Lord have mercy. That's Exodus 18 and 21. You arrive at Mount Sinai. Now you have to understand that's Exodus 19, 1 through 2. The Israelites arrived in the wilderness and camped at the base of the mountain. Now this is going to be significant because see, this is where God begins to deal with them. And you have to understand, in your wilderness, what you do is vital. In the wilderness, they showed themselves. They showed what was really in them. Moses goes up to people, God, they didn't have faith that Moses was going to come back. They pulled on another God. Okay, is that like you? You need a miracle for your child. You need a miracle in your marriage. You need a miracle. And guess what? The minute it looks like God don't answer immediately, you just go find another way. You find another God. My. Well, that's what they did. Receiving the 10 Commandments. God's getting ready to give them laws because you have to understand in a wilderness, you need order. You need to pull on the laws of God. Exodus 20, verses 1 through 17. What did they do? They build up a golden calf, Exodus 32, verses 7 through 8 and 19. Then God is merciful. Moses go back up. The Lord did the 10 Commandments again on a second time, Exodus 34, 1, and then verses 28. Moses' faces is shining. And this is going to be amazing. In the wilderness, there are going to be times that's God going to shower you with his glory. There are times I had so many special encounters when I had no money, didn't know where I was going, didn't know what I was going to do. All I knew is I had a promise from God. And somewhere the Lord said he loved me and he was going to use me. A promise. I had a promise. And you know what? There was some times that God would bring me into a place. Oh, Moses' face shined with the glory. Exodus 34, verses 33 through 35. After speaking intimately with God, Moses' face was radiant light, so bright that they had a veil over his face. So you have to think about this. Now, Joshua will wait at the bottom with him. And Joshua kind of tipped in there, if you think about it. The other verse where he talks about, he went in the tent, he got the leftover gravy, but even the gravy of the glory is awesome. But let me say this. He had been with the Lord in such intimacy that the glory shined on his face. Is the glory shining on your face? Oh my God. I know you're in a wilderness, but don't get in your own way. You're going to be like these Israelites and just go around and around. What you going to do? You're going to be 67 years old. You're going to start aging, graying up, and, face looking horrible because you're doing your own thing. Oh my God. Oh my God, my God, my God. You have to understand, building the tabernacle. Now, this was amazing. During a wilderness, you need to build you a prayer room. You need to build you a prayer room, a prayer life. You need to come to a place that you seek the face of God. That's what they did. The people bought free will offerings, and Moses oversaw the construction of the tabernacle, its furnishing, and the Ark of the Covenant. That's Exodus 40, verses 1 through 3. Now, let me just say this. See, all of these miracles are things that happen during the wilderness. So, there are times you're going to have the seasons of the glory where God is just doing miraculous things, where he brings miracles to bring you confidence. And then he does miraculous things that you can't even explain. You can't even put words to. You behooved yourself. And then there's times that God will bring you in a wilderness where you just have to trust him. And usually a wilderness is right after a great deliverance. Because see, when that great deliverance comes, then you got to keep that same intimacy. That's why Moses' face shined. That's why he went to a great place. That's why these great things were happening and he was using him. But you have to realize that great Red Sea, then come the wilderness. Then they get to the base of the mountain. Then he goes up to Mount Sinai. Then he gets some instructions, gets some order. In the wilderness, you need instructions, you need order. After the instructions and the order, then you're going to need some intimacy because you're going to need to talk to God. Come on, Moses is our instructor today. You're going to have to talk to God, let the glory fall on your face so you can keep your head together. Because if not, come on, you're going to keep going from church to church, just hurt, wounded, and hurt, wounded. It's you. The problem is just you. Listen, it done been me. Because I had to keep saying, oh, Miranda, wait a minute. Everywhere, you're the common denominator. So what does that mean? All right, I got some warnings for you. Whenever you're in the midst of a transition to the promised land, that means you don't come out of Egypt. You're in this transition. You're walking through this wilderness. You don't understand some things. You don't know where you're going. You just see desert, desert, desert. Only thing you know, somebody told you, just keep walking a couple of years and you're going to run into a promised land that's going to be green. You don't know how it turns from the desert to the green. Only thing you know, you're not going back to all of that hard stone, that stone that was in Egypt. That's why their hearts was hardened. That's why they were hardened against God. Right. So you get through this wilderness, but somebody told you just keep going, keep going. There's a couple of years. After that, you're going to walk into a promised land, and you're going to get to a mountain. You're going to get to a Mount Nebo, and you're going to pass through another mountain. It's not going to be far from the Jordan River, and you're going to be able to get there. And then guess what? The Mount Pisgah. Yes. See, and that was interesting because Moses get on there, and he tells him, and you know what's so amazing? The Lord walked him through. He walked him through the full plan. Can you imagine God saying that he see you face to face, but he also tells you, hey, Moses, let's go over here. I want you to stand on top of this mountain. I want you to stand on it. And you might say, wait a minute. Yeah, but the Hebrew word for that mountain is Mount Pisgah. And that's where he stood on top of that mountain. And guess what? When he saw on top of that mountain, he was able to see the promised land. He saw what God promised. But you have to realize, he wasn't all the way incapacitated or half dead during that time. but he knew he couldn't go in the promised land. I want to say something to you today. I want to give you some warnings. I want you to be very, very careful about the spies sent to the Canaan. They got ready to go into the promised land. They sent the spies, and some of the spies came back with negative, fearful reports. Be careful when you're coming out your wilderness, who you're talking to. Make sure you don't be talking to no faithless people and fearful people and people that's not really doing the right thing. Be very, very careful. Because when you cross over to that promised land, you better make sure you don't bring that Egypt and that Egypt mentality in that promised land, or you're going to have an issue. Or maybe God may not let you go in. You may end up in that wilderness going around and around 40 more years. Oh my God. Also, you have to remember there was some rebellion in that wilderness. Yes, for 40 years they wandered because they were rebellious. The Lord got frustrated with them. He said, don't even pray for these people. Don't tell me nothing for these people. Oh my God. But Moses pleaded for the people. He did. Because of the people's lack of faith, God decreed that Israel must wander in the wilderness for 40 years until the adult generation perished. Oh my God. So what he did, he just waited till they died off and let all the new breed go, all the young people. Oh my God, Lord have mercy. You don't want to do that. Are you in a wilderness? Every one of us has had wilderness. But you don't want to make sure, you don't want to take the Egypt with you. You want to make sure in your wilderness you got some intimacy. You're getting instructions. You're getting from God some things that he wants you to do. You're going to give it to the people, whether they're rebellious or not. And you're going to make sure you obey every instructions. Everyone, no matter how he did it. And let me say that we all need mercy in that place, because sometimes God gives us things that takes a lot of faith, pure faith. Let me talk about pure faith for a moment, like pure, clean faith. He don't want no mixture to it. Pure faith. He wants to keep that thing pure. And guess what? He says nothing but pure faith is going to make it. There's going to be some time that you have to take pure faith and you're going to have to step into that promised land. And then sometimes you realize if you lack faith, you may not get to walk in there. And I don't want that to be. Are you in the wilderness today? So let me talk to you today. Are you in a place where you're at a place where you're trying to say, Prophetess, I don't know if I did this wilderness right or not. I'm not really sure. I don't know if I got halfway there and then my faith just went left. I'm not really sure. But I tell you what today, if you're in a wilderness, I want you to know that the Lord thy God's got something special for you. And there's a deliverer that's going to help you through that Red Sea. They're going to pull you out of Egypt, cross you across that Red Sea. They're going to bring you through this wilderness, and they're going to show you, hey, sweetie, the promised land is this way, and this is how you get there. It was intimacy. It was Moses communing with God, Moses' personal time with God that caused him to get the special things from God. But in the midst of having a special thing, make sure this. Don't think just because you got encounters and you have all those special miracles that you think you're beyond correction. Be careful with that. Because remember this, one of the things that I remember about Moses, he didn't go in the promised land. Even though the Lord spoke so highly of him, gave him encounters, oh my God, encounters after encounters after encounters, miraculous. But he didn't go in. Oh my God, that's enough to make you think, let me think twice. Let me get this thing right. So I just want you to know today, I want you to know that God's going to send you a Moses, and he will be a deliverer anointed from God to bring you into the place that God's called you for. Remember this. I pray that this message touches your heart. If you're a pastor and you're listening to this word today, I really, really pray that you understand you got to do it fully right, all the way. I believe Moses is a sign for all of us that carry the word of God and are called with a mission and a word of the Lord of the Lord to the nation or to the world, to the international, whatever platform that you're called for. I think Moses is a great example for us to get in line. And don't ever think just because God used us miraculously. So often I talk about the fact that the gifts come without repentance. God will use a donkey if he got to get a people out of Egypt. But Moses was willing to pay the price, and he was willing to spend the time. And the intimacy was a sign of the shining on his face that he had been communing with God. And I'm just going to say this to you. Humble yourself and be yielded to God. I want you to know I keep Moses right before me. Humble yourself, Miranda. Stay at the feet of God and thank him for using you. I pray that you've been blessed today. I want you to go to my website. I want you to go, and I want you to stay tuned because there's going to be a commercial that you're going to hear. And I pray that you will be a part of my new school. We got some wonderful things that are coming forth, and I want you to be a part of it. So remember, prophetessmiranda.com. There's always something new. And those of you that used to typically listen to my Thursday call, I want you to continue to do that because the Lord has given me many messages to be able to help cultivate your life. So I'm excited about it. Remember, join the prophetic view on Thursdays, and by all means, stay tuned because there's always something new on prophetessmiranda.com. God bless you. Have an amazing day. Get ready. Your Moses is on his way to your life. God bless.
I am after your heart. I am after your heart. I am after your heart. Nothing else will do. I am after your heart. I am after your heart. I am after your heart. Jesus, only you. I don't want the lights without your presence. I don't want the crown without your voice. Strip away the idols and distractions till my soul learns heaven is my choice. You have walked me through the fire, loved me through my brokenness. Now my deepest one desire is simply this. I am after your heart. I am after your heart. I am after your heart more than anything. I am after your eyes. I am after your ways. Teach me how to love the things that make heaven sing. Search me, know me, heal the hidden places. Wash me clean from every compromise. I don't want religion, I want to truly surrender. I want truth alive inside my heart. Just to dwell in your presence, let forgiveness flood my spirit. Burn away my selfishness. Make me holy, make me willing. Take all of me, Jesus. I cry for one thing, to dwell with you forever. Moses wanted to dwell in your glory. Paul said nothing's better. So let my heart pursue you till every chain falls off. I don't want your hand alone. God, I want your heart. I am after your heart. Day and night, Lord. I am after your heart. You can have my mind. You can have my dreams. You can have my future. You can have all of me. Nothing in this world compares to you. Nothing in this world compares to you. I found the treasure of heaven. His name is Jesus, and I'm after his heart.
Get ready for the next set of upcoming prophetic trainings you don't want to miss. Bloomington, Illinois. We are coming your way August 9th, just 1 hour from Chicago. Don't wait. Go now to prophetessmiranda.com. Click schedule and register. If you feel led to support the vision, you can text GIVE to 8775 825403, scan the QR code on your screen, or visit prophetessmiranda.com.